Good morning. I hope you can hear me and see the screen. Can somebody confirm?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. So please switch off your mic here. So we were discussing about non-Newtonian fluids, and we had discussed about different types of non-Newtonian fluids. We had a basic discussion, and then we went into uh, more details of one specific type of non-Newtonian fluid, which is known as generalized Newtonian fluid. Okay, so these are the type of fluids. Let me go back. So this shear thinning fluid, shear thickening fluid, and Newtonian fluid, all of them together can be treated as a single class of fluid, which is known as generalized Newtonian fluid. So all of them can be modeled using similar models or same model. Okay. So one of the model, which is the most popular model for describing all three types of fluids, shear thinning, shear thickening, and Newtonian, is known as power law model. So we have started discussing about power law model, and what was this power law model? So basically, here in power law model, the viscosity or apparent viscosity is a function of the strain rate to the power some value. Okay, so this apparent viscosity is function of strain rate to the power n minus 1, where this n is an exponent which depends on the type of material. And if it's a purely Newtonian fluid, where there is linear viscosity, means a constant viscosity, then n becomes equal to 1, so n minus 1, so eta dot n minus 1 becomes equal to 1, so eta becomes equal to, sorry, nu dot n minus 1 becomes equal to 1, so eta becomes equal to m. Okay, so normal Newtonian fluid. Otherwise, for shear thinning fluid or shear thickening fluid, n is not equal to 1. Please switch off your mic. Please switch off your mic. So n is not equal to 1, and accordingly eta varies with the strain rate. So this was the definition of power law fluid, and with this definition of apparent viscosity, we can define for a generalized Newtonian fluid the shear stress tau ij to be equal to 2 into eta into dij, where dij is the deformation in the same direction. So tau ij is the shear stress that is developed in the direction of dij. Okay, and eta is the constant of proportionality, where eta is given by m nu dot to the power n minus 1. So this was our power law model, or we can write in general tau ij is equal to 2m nu dot n minus 1 dij. Okay. So with this model, we had discussed two problems. One was drag flow between two parallel plates for a power law fluid. Okay. And we found what is the shear stress variation and what is the velocity variation, velocity profile for this case. And the second problem that we had discussed was pressure flow in a tube. Okay, we had a pipe through which flow was occurring due to pressure difference. So there was a pressure difference between two ends. On one side we had a high pressure P1, on the other side we had a low pressure P2. So because of this difference in pressure, there was flow in the pipe, and we wanted to find out what is the shear stress developed within the, like, across any cross section, and what is the velocity profile and what is the flow rate. Okay. So let me just revise or recap once, because we will continue from here today again. So after a lot of simplification, so we started with three equations. Okay, let me just keep this also open, the governing equations. So we had three momentum equations, okay, in cylindrical coordinate system for the r direction, theta direction, and z direction. So we simplified all these equations, and we found that the r momentum equation, which one actually got reduced to 0? R and theta momentum equation got reduced to 0, and the z momentum equation resulted in only a single shear stress term, and finally the shear stress was found to be equal to tau rz is equal to minus delta p by 2L into r, okay, where r is the distance along the radial direction from the center, and delta p is the pressure difference applied, L is the length of the cylinder. So only tau rz existed, and all the other components of tau were 0. Similarly, we also found, we will just recall once, that all the deformation components, rate of deformation components were also 0, drr, d theta theta, dzz, dr theta, d theta z, all were 0. The only component that was present was drz, which is equal to dz, which we found to be equal to half dou vz dou r. Okay, so this was the only component that was present, and accordingly tau rz was the only shear stress component. Okay. So based on this, then we found what is nu dot, which is the magnitude of magnitude of strain rate, which was equal to minus dou vz dou r, and we did some calculations and found what is the velocity profile. Velocity profile came out something like this. So for Newtonian fluid, it was equal to parabolic profile, familiar parabolic profile. For non-Newtonian fluid, the profile was different, non-parabolic. Okay. And we also found the flow rate by integrating over the cross-sectional area. What will be the, so by integrating the velocity over the cross-sectional area, we found what is the flow rate. Okay. So up to this point, we had discussed in a few weeks back. So if we plot the profile, velocity profile that we have obtained, let me keep the velocity profile open in the other. Although it's not very easy to visualize, okay, so you have to plot it using a computer program like MATLAB. But if you plot the profile, so what we will obtain is that for n equal to 1, we have a profile which is given by this blue line. Okay, for n equal to 1, we have a profile which is given by the blue line. So n equal to 1 is Newtonian fluid. Okay, so it's like a parabolic profile. The blue line is a parabolic profile. If we have a shear thinning fluid, if n is less than 1, okay, between 0 and 1, then we have a shear thinning fluid. Then we have a more blunt profile, like shown here by this line. Okay, I will draw it here. So if I have n equal to less than 1, we have a profile like this, very blunt profile, okay, for a shear thinning fluid. And if we have n greater than 1, like a shear thickening fluid, then we have a sharp profile like this. Okay, this is for a shear thickening fluid. So for this case, this is shown for n equal to 2. More the value of n, more it will become sharper and sharper. Like more it will become like a triangle. Okay, so starting from parabolic profile for n equal to 1, if you keep on increasing the value of n, it will become triangular and triangular. And on the other end, if you keep on decreasing the value of n, it will become more and more flat. Okay, the velocity profile. So why this happens? Theoretically or physically, why this happens? Mathematically, we can obtain that this happens if you plot just this equation, Vz is equal to delta p by 2 ml to the power s. Remember what was s? S was 1 by n. Okay. Before the class, you should read about the material. Otherwise, it will be difficult to connect to the previous material. So delta p by 2 ml to the power 1 by n, r to the power 1 by n plus 1 minus small r to the power 1 by n plus 1 divided by 1 by n plus 1. So if you plot this in MATLAB, you will get this profile. Okay. So what happens is that for shear thinning fluid, what is the definition of shear thinning fluid? Shear thinning fluid means with increasing shear stress or increasing strain rate, the viscosity is decreased. Okay. So the apparent viscosity decreases with increasing strain rate. Okay. If we see that graph, so this is a shear thinning fluid. So when we increase the strain rate, the apparent viscosity, the slope of the line is decreasing. Okay. So with higher shear stress or higher strain rate, the viscosity decreases. Now we have obtained, for this case, we have obtained that the shear stress is 0 at the center and increases to the maximum value at the end. Where did we obtain this? Just now I have described. The tau Rz is equal to minus delta P by 2L into R, where R is the distance from the center. Okay. So at the center R is 0, so tau Rz is 0 and it linearly increases. So maximum tau Rz occurs at the value of R is equal to capital R. Okay. So at the center it is 0, then it keeps on increasing and maximum tau Rz is at the end. Okay, at the center, like this. So we have maximum shear stress at the end. Okay. So now what happens is that because the shear stress is high towards the end, okay, for the shear thinning fluid, the viscosity becomes lower towards the end. Towards the end cylinder wall, viscosity becomes lower for the shear thinning fluid. If the viscosity is lower, shear stress has to be same. Shear stress is what is given by this equation. Okay, it is independent of the viscosity. So shear stress remains very high, but the viscosity is decreased. So how will that entire shear stress be taken care of? Shear stress is equal to eta into the deformation rate, right? So if the eta value is low, then deformation has to be very high at the end. So that's why the slope of the line becomes very high at the end for the shear thinning fluid. There is a sharp change in velocity towards the end. Similarly, on the other end also there is a sharp change in velocity because the viscosity is lower and the shear stress remains same. So for lower viscosity, you need a larger velocity gradient for the same shear stress to be generated as compared to normal Newtonian fluid. Okay, that's why you have a sharp jump at the end, and towards the center, the shear stress is very less, so the viscosity is higher. Okay, for shear thinning fluid, because the stress is less, viscosity is higher, and because the viscosity is higher and shear stress is less, you need very less amount of deformation to cater to the shear stress. Okay, so del U del R, okay, is very small at the center, so not much change in velocity occurs at the center. On the other hand, for shear thickening fluids, the viscosity is actually high at high shear stress. So for shear thickening fluid towards the end, like this at the end region near the wall, the viscosity is very high. Okay, so if the viscosity is very high, then with a smaller del U del R, smaller change in velocity, you can get the same shear stress, because shear stress is equal to eta into del U del R, right? So with a smaller change in velocity, you can get the same shear stress because the viscosity is high. So as a result, the velocity does not change much with the radius. It does not change as much as that of a shear thinning fluid, or even as a parabolic, means even as a normal Newtonian fluid. So velocity changes less at the edges. Okay. However, on the other hand, at the center, because the stress is less for the shear thickening fluid, the viscosity is also less at the center because the stress is less, and as a result, because of less viscosity, you still need certain amount of velocity gradient to cater to the shear stress. Okay, because shear stress is equal to viscosity into velocity gradient. Certain amount of velocity gradient is required So the velocity gradient is higher at the center as compared to shear thinning fluid. Okay. That's why we get profiles as shown here, or what I have shown here. And you can plot this to get the same velocity profile. So shear thinning fluid, n is less than 1, flat profile more like flux flow. Shear thickening fluid, n is greater than 1, pointed profile more like triangular flow. Newtonian profile, Newtonian fluid, n equal to 1, parabolic profile. Okay, so these are the type of the profile that we obtain for different types of fluid by using the power law model. Okay. Remember that this is only a model. There can be other models also that can be used, more complicated models, which may mimic the real life behavior in a more suitable way. So ultimately all these models are developed to mimic real life behavior to as much accuracy as possible. So it has been seen that this power law model mimics the real life behavior to quite a bit of accuracy, means quite accurately it models or quite accurately it represents the real life behavior. That's why it has become popular. But there are other models also which can predict similar type of behavior. Okay, anybody can develop a model if they can show that their model is predicting the real life behavior in a accurate way. Questions? Any questions? So we will continue this discussion. Okay, we have discussed up to this point. We did not discuss this profile, but today we have discussed. So we will try another case. Okay, we will try another case where we have the same flow through the tube. Okay, same flow through the tube, like we have already discussed right now, but for a Bingham plastic. Okay, we had discussed for a power law fluid. Now we will take another type of constitutive relation, which is the Bingham plastic. So what was this Bingham plastic? If you remember, the Bingham plastic was a special type of fluid where initially with a certain amount of stress there is no deformation at all. Okay, so it behaves like a solid body. Up to a certain extent of stress, there is no velocity that is generated. Okay, then after a certain time, when you keep on applying more and more force, then the deformation starts and flow starts, and the fluid flows like a normal Newtonian fluid. Okay, after that point. So if you plot the stress versus strain rate, tau versus eta dot, stress versus strain rate, tau versus nu dot, sorry, then you will see that for a particular amount of, up to a particular amount of stress, there is no strain rate, no deformation. Okay, so this is known as critical stress tau y. Okay, we can call it as critical stress tau y. Okay, so after this critical stress tau y, then the deformation starts and tau behaves linearly with respect to nu dot. Okay, so tau behaves linearly with respect to nu dot like a Newtonian fluid. If it was an actual Newtonian fluid, we would have a line like this. Okay, but for this Bingham plastic, we have this extra region where there is no flow, and then only it starts behaving like a Newtonian fluid. Okay, that is the difference. So for this fluid, the constitutive relation can be written in two parts like this. The viscosity is infinity if tau is less than the critical stress tau I. Okay, so viscosity is infinity. So the material behaves like a solid if tau is less than tau I, and viscosity is given by tau I by nu dot plus mu 0 if tau is greater than tau I. Okay, so basically at any point here, like at any point like this. Okay, so at this point, say we have a certain amount of nu dot. Okay, so the stress here will be this term multiplied by nu dot. So tau I by nu dot into nu dot. So it will become tau I plus mu 0 into nu dot. So it will become equal to tau I. Writing is difficult using mouse. Mu 0 into nu dot. Okay, I hope you can understand this. So tau I will be this much, and then mu 0 into nu dot is this extra height. Okay. So going from here to here. So this, by using these two parts, we can write the viscosity for this term. So below tau I, viscosity is infinity. Above tau I, it follows a linear pattern starting from tau is equal to tau I. Okay, so after that it follows a linear pattern. So which is summarized here, that if tau is less than tau I, material acts like a solid. If tau is greater than tau I, it flows. If nu dot tends to 0, it tends to infinity. Mu 0 is the slope of the line. Okay, this mu 0 is the slope of this line. So we want to find out the flow of this fluid in a tube driven by a pressure difference. Exactly same problem that we have tried for the power law fluid previously. Exactly the same problem we want to try for the Bingham plastic. For the power law fluid, we had obtained these velocity profiles. Okay, this velocity profile and this shear stress profile. So we want to see for our Bingham plastic what will be the velocity profile. So the problem, let me reiterate again once what was the problem. So we have a cylinder of length L, radius capital R, okay, and the three coordinate axes are Z direction along the flow direction, then R small r direction along the radial direction, and theta along the angular direction basically. And P1 is the pressure on the left side, which is higher than pressure P2 on the right hand side. Delta P is equal to P1 minus P2. Okay. So this problem is similar to the previous problem, but with different material, that is with Bingham plastic and different viscosity. All the other assumptions are similar, what we had taken previously. So what were these assumptions? I will not go into details because we have already discussed, but I will just state once. We have steady flow, axisymmetric flow. Steady flow means there was no variation with time. Axisymmetric, that is no variation with theta. Constant fluid density, so density remains same. No body forces, so no gravity or other forces. Fully developed flow, so no variation with the z direction, and no slip at the wall. So velocity was 0 at the wall. With these assumptions for this geometry and boundary conditions, what we have derived for the, this is for the power law fluid. What we have derived for the power law fluid, Vr equal to 0, okay. Then drr, all the components, drr equal to 0, d theta theta equal to 0, dzz equal to 0, dr theta equal to d theta r equal to 0, then d theta z equal to dz theta equal to 0, and only component of deformation rate which was present was this component, dzr is equal to drz is equal to half dou vz dou r. Okay. From where did we get these equations? From the table. Okay. In the table, these equations are given. For the cylindrical coordinate, these were the equations: drr, d theta theta, dzz. Table has been already shared with you. You can see in the Teams portal. Dr theta, d theta z, and dzr. So all these were 0 except the last term. Okay. And we had valid reasons also, we had discussed previously. So I am not going into the details this time to save time. So let us remember this few of the things from the previous problem. Okay. One is that dzr is equal to drz is equal to half dou vz dou r. Okay. So we will write this here also. drz is equal to dzr is equal to half dou vz dou r. Because the same thing will hold true here, because to obtain this, we did not assume any material properties. We did not assume that whether the fluid is power law fluid or Bingham plastic or whatever fluid. So this is valid for any fluid. Okay, this is just based on the geometry and boundary condition. Then all the tau terms were 0 except tau rz. Okay, except tau rz, all the tau terms were 0. Tau rz will be proportional to drz. And what else we had obtained? We had obtained that tau rz is equal to minus delta p by 2l into r. This is what we had obtained. Okay, tau rz is equal to minus delta p by 2l into r. This also we had obtained without assuming any fluid type. Okay, without assuming power law fluid or Newtonian fluid or Bingham plastic or any fluid type. Okay, so this was valid for any viscous flow. We had mentioned this specifically, that this is valid for any viscous fluid. It does not depend on the type of the fluid. Okay. So for our Bingham plastic also this will hold true. Okay, so up to this point the derivation is exactly same. You can do the same derivation and you will find that tau rz is equal to minus delta p by 2l r. Okay. The other thing that we had obtained without assuming anything else was that nu dot is equal to minus dvz del vz del r. Okay, nu dot is equal to minus del vz del r. So the strain rate was given as minus del vz del r, and that also we obtained without assuming anything regarding the power law fluid. So up to this point we did not assume anything regarding the power law fluid. So similarly for this case also nu dot is equal to minus del vz del r. This was negative because del vz del r is less than 0, because v is more at the center and v is 0 at the edges. So the velocity gradient with radius has to be less than 0, because ultimately we have obtained that velocity is more at the center and less at the boundary. So we have a negative velocity gradient with radius. Okay, and that is what we obtained also. So with these findings, tau rz is equal to minus del p by 2l r, then drz is equal to dz is equal to half dou vz dou r, and nu dot is equal to minus dou vz dou r. Okay, we will continue the derivation for the Bingham plastic. Okay, so I will keep the constitutive relation open for the Bingham plastic here. Let me just erase this part, it's not relevant. So the magnitude of stress, the stress is minus delta p by 2l into r at any point r. Okay, so the magnitude of stress is given by delta p r by 2l. Okay, so the absolute value of stress is delta p r by 2l. Now what happens? The stress is 0 at the center at r equal to 0, and stress is maximum at r equal to r. The magnitude of the stress is greatest at r equal to r at the wall, and 0 at r equal to 0. So somewhere in between, while the stress is varying from 0 to maximum value, the stress will become equal to tau y. Okay, the stress will become equal to tau y. Okay, this value tau y. So up to that point in the cylinder, there will not be any flow, and beyond this point there can be flow. Okay, so if I draw this, I have already drawn it here. So say this is the center of the cylinder. Okay, so this is the center of the cylinder, and this shear stress is increasing from 0 at this point to maximum value at this point. Okay, the magnitude is increasing. So if this is the magnitude is linearly increasing. Okay, so at some point, say at this point, at this height, the stress becomes equal to tau y. Okay, so at r is equal to capital Ry, tau becomes equal to tau y. So below this point, between r is equal to 0 and r is equal to ry, tau is less than tau y. So because tau is less than tau y, there cannot be any flow. Okay, because the value is less than the critical shear stress, so there cannot be any flow. So beyond this point, tau will be greater than tau y, because tau is linearly increasing with r. So above this point there will be flow. So actually my statement is not correct that below this point there is no flow. Below this point there is no deformation.
Velocity gradient, right?
Yes, correct. Velocity gradient will be 0. Flow can still be there. Deformation rate is 0. Okay. If there is flow, it will flow in a solid like pattern. Means like it's a very good point that you have raised. It will flow like a solid body. Okay. Means there won't be any deformation rate there. Means there will won't be any velocity gradient that is generated there. So entire block will flow like a solid object. Okay, and outside this region there can be velocity gradient. Okay, so actually that is the case that we will see later, that inside also there is flow, but it flows like a solid block, like there is no deformation rate that is present inside. Okay, it's like a entire solid plug is moving ahead. So there won't be any deformation rate inside, and outside there is a certain deformation rate. Okay, so we will solve this problem by dividing this into two parts, the inside part and the outside part. Okay, so at r is greater than ry, at r equal to ry, tau is equal to tau y. Okay, so we can find out what should be the critical radius beyond which there will be deformation rate. Okay, so tau y is equal to delta p ry by 2l by replacing tau equal to tau y here and r is equal to capital Ry here. We get tau y is equal to delta p ry by 2l, or ry is equal to 2l tau y by delta p. Okay, so this is the critical radius below which there is no deformation rate, above which there is deformation rate. So now we will divide our problem into two parts, for r greater than ry and for r less than ry. Okay, for r greater than equal to ry, our constitutive relation is tau rz is equal to, so our constitutive relation is eta is equal to tau y by nu dot plus mu 0. Okay, so this is the viscosity. Eta is equal to tau y by nu dot plus mu 0. So we will be using this relation. So tau rz is equal to 2 eta drz. Remember that we had already these values, drz is equal to half dou vz dou r, and tau rz is equal to minus delta p by 2lr. Okay, so at r greater than ry, tau rz is equal to 2 eta drz. So eta we will be replacing with the expression tau y by nu dot into mu 0. Okay, so 2 eta becomes 2 tau y by nu dot plus mu 0, and drz is equal to half dou vz dou r. So drz is equal to half dou vz dou r, and tau rz is equal to minus delta p r by 2l. Okay, by replacing this value. So now we can write this as minus delta p r by 2l is equal to 2 tau y by nu dot plus mu 0 into half dou vz dou r. Then you can just do some rearrangement. 2 gets cancelled. So minus delta p r by 2l is equal to tau y by nu dot, again we have found that this is equal to minus dou vz dou r. Okay, so we can write this as tau y by minus dou vz dou r plus mu 0 into dou vz dou r. Okay, so you can rearrange the terms and you will get dou vz dou r is equal to minus delta p r by 2 mu 0 l plus tau y by mu 0. Okay, this is the expression for variation of velocity with respect to r, variation of velocity in the flow direction. So z movement of velocity, z direction velocity with respect to r. So if you integrate it with respect to r, we will get Vz is equal to minus delta p r square for this term, minus delta p r square by 4 mu 0 l plus tau y by mu 0 r from this term plus some constant c1. Okay, this is the expression of velocity. Now at r is equal to capital R, Vz is equal to 0. At the wall the velocity has to be equal to 0. At this wall the velocity has to be equal to 0. So if we replace that boundary condition, 0 is equal to minus delta p capital R square by 4 mu 0 l plus tau y by mu 0 r plus c1. So from this you will get the constant c1. c1 is equal to delta p capital R square by 4 mu 0 l minus tau y by mu 0 capital R. Okay, so replace this c1 in this expression, you get the final expression of Vz. So final expression of Vz will be equal to, so you have to do this by hand. It's just a simple algebraic calculation. Vz is equal to delta p r square by 4 mu 0 l within bracket 1 minus small r by capital R whole square minus tau y capital R by mu 0 within bracket 1 minus small r by capital R. Okay, so this is the velocity variation with respect to r. Okay, velocity variation with r for value of r which is greater than ry but less than capital R, means This is the velocity variation from this region to this region. Okay, velocity variation from this region to this region, it varies like a quadratic profile. Okay, something like a quadratic profile. So for r less than capital R, what happens? So this was for r greater than capital. For r greater than ry. For r less than capital Ry, viscosity is infinity. Okay. Now tau rz is equal to 2 eta drz. That is valid for any model, right? Or any point. Okay. Now if eta becomes equal to infinity and tau rz is finite, tau rz we have already obtained to be finite. Okay. This is tau rz. It's a finite value. And if eta is infinity, then drz has to be equal to 0. Okay. So if drz is equal to 0, half dou vz dou r equal to 0, or vz is equal to constant. Because vz does not vary with theta or other direction, theta or z direction. So ultimately vz, if it does not vary with r direction, it is constant. Okay. So vz is equal to constant. So what is the value of this vz, of the constant vz? So this will be equal to the value of vz which is present at r equal to ry. Okay. So if we look at the velocity profile, velocity goes like this. Velocity is 0 at the boundary and it increases in a quadratic fashion up to r is equal to ry. And then from this point onward, for smaller values of r, velocity remains constant. So the velocity at any point here is equal to whatever is the velocity at capital Ry. Okay, at r is equal to ry. So we can find that value if we plug in small r is equal to ry in this expression of velocity. Okay. So if you do that, you will find vz is equal to delta p r square by 4 mu 0 l 1 minus capital Ry by capital R whole square minus tau y r by mu 0 1 minus ry by r. This is the velocity at this point, and this is the velocity for the entire value for r between 0 and capital Ry. Okay. So we have the maximum velocity at the center. Okay, but there is no deformation rate. It's a flat profile. There is no variation. So dou vz dou r is 0. And then at the outside, it is more like a Newtonian fluid. Okay, it behaves more like a Newtonian fluid at the outside. So it is more like a truncated Newtonian profile, you can say. Okay, parabolic, but inside there is a flat profile. So this can be simplified also using tau y is equal to delta p ry by 12 to some simplified form. You can try this later on. Vz is equal to delta p r square by 4 mu 0 l 1 minus ry by r whole square. Okay, you can try that later on. Just algebraic simplification. So to summarize, the critical radius ry is 2l tau y by delta p. If ry is greater than r, should be ry is less than r. This is wrongly. If ry is less than r, there is no flow. Oh no, this is correct. This is correct. If ry is greater than r, if the critical radius comes out to be greater than the capital R, okay. If the critical radius comes out to be greater than capital R, so for some reason say this is the critical radius. Okay. So then the entire cylinder is within the critical radius. So there cannot be any flow within the cylinder. Okay. So eta is equal to infinity everywhere within the cylinder, and there is no flow in the cylinder. Okay. So you need a larger pressure difference to, if you increase the pressure difference to a larger value, then Ry will reduce and there can be flow within the cylinder. Otherwise, there won't be any flow within the cylinder. If the delta P is sufficient, yes, tell me.
Will it move like a solid?
Will it move like a
solid cylinder?
No, it won't move at all because of boundary condition. So if the critical radius is greater than Ry, okay, critical radius is greater than R, so there cannot be any flow. So del Vz del R has to be equal to 0. So del Vz del R has to be equal to 0. everywhere, right? Now at the boundary, Vz has to be 0 because of no slip condition. So if at the boundary the Vz has to be 0, everywhere else also Vz will become equal to 0 because del Vz del R is equal to 0. So there won't be any flow. It won't be like this. It won't be like a flat profile. Okay, there won't be any velocity at all in the fluid. It won't flow at all. It is like a toothpaste. If you are not providing sufficient force in a toothpaste tube, the toothpaste will not flow out. If you provide sufficient force, then only it will start flowing out. Okay, otherwise there won't be any flow. Is it clear?
Yes.
Okay. So finally, you can find the volume flow rate by doing the same integration like previously, going from 0 to 2 pi and 0 to r, Vz r d theta dr. This is, I am not going to repeat this part. Leave it to you as an exercise how to do that. Okay, we had done this previously. 0 to 2 pi 0 to r Vz r d theta dr based on the cross sectional area, and you have to replace the value of Vz from the expression that we had obtained. Okay, from this expression. So here you have to do it by dividing into two parts, one from 0 to capital Ry and second part from capital Ry to capital R, because the two parts velocity expression is different. Okay, and if you do that, you will get this expression. You should do this on your own and verify this. Okay, this is important. So you should not just assume that this is the case. You try this on your own and find that the flow rate is pi r to the power 4 delta p by 8 mu 0 L 1 minus 4 by 3 Ry by r plus 1 by 3 Ry by r all to the power 4. Okay, and average velocity is q by pi r square. So I leave this as an exercise. So this is so up to this point we will discuss about different types of flow for this power law and Bingham plastics. Okay, so we have not yet finished the non-Newtonian fluid. Okay, we will continue non-Newtonian fluid, but we will study about a different type of non-Newtonian fluid. So what we have studied till now are purely viscous fluids, where there is no dependence on time. We have studied this case, and we have studied also these cases. Okay, the Bingham plastic and shear thinning, shear thickening, and Newtonian fluid. The time-dependent viscosity fluids are too difficult to study within this course, within the framework of this course. So we will not go into further details or mathematical analysis of thixotropic or rheopractic fluid. What we will discuss next is viscoelastic fluid. Okay, that is also time-dependent, but it is a special type of fluid which shows the behavior of both solid and liquid. Okay, so this type of behavior is what we are going to discuss next. Okay, so before that, is there any question? Please go through this material. We have studied three problems. One is flow between parallel flat plates, and two for flow between cylinders. One for power law fluid, one for Bingham plastic. You can expect similar type of problems. Means there may or may not be similar type of problems in the exam. Okay. So if there is a problem similar to this, you have to take suitable assumptions and then solve the problems as we have shown here. Okay. I have given you one assignment also. If you go back to your assignment, so there is an assignment for you guys, and you have to submit this assignment, okay, by the end of next week. Marks are there for this assignment, the teaching assessment part. So this assignment tells that similar to these two problems that these three problems that we have discussed, I have given two more problems for practice. Okay, later on I will post the solution once you submit the assignment next week. So deadline is next Friday. So one problem is, consider two very long concentric cylinders, one with radius capital R and one with radius kr. Okay, and the outer cylinder is kept fixed while the inner cylinder is rotated with an angular velocity omega. The annular space between the two cylinders is filled with a power law fluid. By taking suitable assumptions and using appropriate governing equations, show that the velocity profile and shear stress in the fluid is given by these expressions. Okay, the velocity profile, and so inner cylinder, which has a radius of kr, is rotating with an angular velocity of omega. The outer cylinder is fixed. Okay, so one cylinder is fixed, the other one is rotating. So you have to use the same procedure, like starting from the general governing equation with suitable assumptions. You have to find that the shear stress is given by this expression, and the velocity profile between these two cylinders is given by this expression. Second problem is slightly simpler. So a power law fluid flows between two parallel plates. So we have two parallel plates of length L separated by a distance 2r. So two parallel plates are there of length L separated by distance 2r, and there is a pressure difference delta P between the two ends. So it is the same problem as the cylinder that we have studied, but instead of a cylinder, now it is a Cartesian coordinate problem. So we have parallel plates instead of the cylinder. So it's a simplified version of the cylinder problem that we have studied till now. So we have two parallel plates. The distance between the parallel plates is 2r, and the length of the plates is L, and there is a pressure difference delta P. So we have to find the shear stress distribution, velocity distribution, total flow rate, and average velocity for a power law fluid between the parallel plates. Okay, so you have to submit these two assignments, and it will help you also in practicing this type of problems, more problems of this type. You have to follow the exact same procedure that we have followed, starting from the general governing equation, then cancel one by one all the terms, and whatever is left, then follow the pattern of the like using the constitutive relation. Any questions? So some time is still left, so I will just start with an introduction of viscoelastic material, and then we will continue the discussion in tomorrow's class. What is a viscoelastic material? It exhibits both viscous and elastic characteristics. Viscous characteristics are characteristics typical of a fluid. Means if you put a stress, it is resisted by a deformation rate or a strain rate. And solid properties like elastic properties are characteristics of a solid, while if you put a stress, it is resisted by strain, not strain rate. It is resisted by deformation, not rate of deformation. Okay, so for fluid, the force is equal to some constant of proportionality into deformation rate. For solid, the force is proportional to some constant of proportionality into deformation, not deformation rate. Okay, what are some examples? Some type of polymers. Okay, some type of polymers are viscoelastic property, have viscoelastic properties. Metals at very high temperatures, and then pitch or bitumen. Okay, silly putty, this type of things, putty. So these are all viscoelastic materials. Okay, so the viscoelastic materials has two dominant characteristics. What are these two dominant characteristics? One is known as stress relaxation, and the second is known as creep. Okay, so we will see what is stress relaxation and creep. I will show you some diagrams, but if I have to explain in one line, stress relaxation is what happens if you provide a constant strain. So if you put a constant deformation on the material, say you elongate the material like a spring, you elongate the material by a certain amount. So if you elongate a spring by a certain amount, what will be the force in the spring? It will remain constant, or will it vary? Say I elongate the spring by 1 centimeter. Will the force in the spring remain constant, or will it vary?
Will it remain the same?
It will remain the same, right? Once you have elongated the spring, the force is proportional to K into X, spring constant into deformation. So force is proportional to K into X. But for this type of material where stress relaxation is there, if I elongate the spring by X amount, gradually the stress will start decreasing. Okay, so initially the stress will be K into X, but with time the stress will decrease from K into X, and it will gradually keep on decreasing with time. Okay, so the stress decreases with time, although the strain is constant. Okay, So that is why it is different from normal elastic solid. Okay, because it shows the stress relaxation property. Similarly, the second property is known as creep. Okay, so again, if you put a force of F on the spring, okay, if you put a force of F, constant force F on the spring, it will elongate by a constant length x. Okay, where F is equal to k into x. But if it is a viscoelastic material, if you put a force F, okay, the spring will elongate initially with a distance x, where F is equal to kx, but then it will keep on gradually increasing, elongating more and more. Okay, the elongation will increase from x. It will keep on elongating more and more. Okay, this phenomenon is known as creep. Okay, so at a constant stress, the strain keeps on increasing. So these are the two main characteristics of viscoelastic material. One is that if you provide a constant strain, constant deformation, the stress keeps on decreasing. On the other hand, if you provide a constant stress, the deformation keeps on increasing, the strain keeps on increasing. Okay, this happens because of molecular rearrangement. So one special type of viscoelastic material is linear viscoelastic material that we are going to study. Okay, linear viscoelastic material is a viscoelastic material where the relation between strain at any given time is linear. Okay, the stress and strain can vary with time. The stress and strain can vary with time, but their relation at any given time will always be linearly proportional. Okay, we will come to this what it means later on. Okay, so if the stress say is, for example, made twice, okay, with time the stress increases to twice the value, the strain will also be twice the value. Okay, although they can vary with time. So I will come into this what it means, what is exactly linear viscoelastic material. Okay, let us show this creep and stress relaxation in a graphical form. Okay, and then we will stop today and continue in tomorrow's class. So this creep can be shown like this. Okay, so say you apply a constant stress sigma 1. Okay, we apply a constant stress sigma 1 on a material. Okay, so what will happen is that instantly there will be a deformation like a solid object. Okay, instantly there will be a deformation like a solid object, as if like a elastic material. So the material will behave like an elastic material, and instantly there will be a deformation, and we will go from this point to this one. Let me open this one. Okay, it is easier to draw here. So instantly we will have a deformation, this deformation. Okay, then with time more and more deformation occurs. So with time we will keep the stress constant sigma 1, but the strain keeps on increasing with time. Okay, so we get more and more. So we get more and more strain with increasing time. Okay, so this is the behavior which is known as creep. So if you apply a higher initial stress sigma 2, the initial deformation is also higher. Okay, if you apply a higher initial stress, initial deformation is higher. Then again it will keep on increasing with time. Okay, similarly if you apply a even higher initial stress sigma 3, again initial deformation is still higher. Okay, then again it will keep on increasing further and further. Okay, so with increasing stress, this strain will be higher, but strain will also increase with time. Okay, so now this linear viscoelastic material means that the stress that is developed, like the strain that is developed with stress, is always linearly proportional. So if sigma 2 is twice sigma 1, the initial strain also for the second case is twice that of first case. Okay, and that is true for any other portion also. So if I take a section here, okay, and if sigma 2 is twice sigma 1, then this strain and this strain, so if we relate this strain will be twice of this strain. Okay, if sigma 2 is twice sigma 1, this strain will be twice this strain. Okay, so this is what we mean by linear viscoelastic material. Similarly, we can study stress relaxation. So with this I will finish today's class. So stress relaxation is that you apply a constant strain. Okay, you pull the material and hold it. Okay, at that point, like you elongate the spring and hold it at that point. Okay. So if you pull the material by strain of sigma epsilon 1, sorry. So initially there will be a stress that is set up, and then gradually with time this stress decreases. Okay. Similarly, if you elongate by a longer distance, epsilon 2, so initial stress will also be higher. Then with time, this stress will decrease. Okay, this is stress relaxation. So again, if you elongate by even higher distance, epsilon 3, so initial stress will be higher, and then it will again decrease with further with time. Okay, so both are similar type of behavior, but are manifested in different ways, because in one case you are holding stress constant, in another case you are holding strain constant. But in both cases, what is happening is that the material is basically relaxing with time. Okay, the ability to hold stress is relaxing with time. So we will stop here today, and we will continue this discussion in the next class. I want some extra classes because I was not well, and still I am not well, so it's difficult for me to take the classes, but we have no option because we are running out of time, and we want to finish this material in proper details. We don't want to skip over any of the material. Non-Newtonian fluid is something which is quite important, and then we have some other material also. So there are two options for extra classes. One is that I can take tomorrow afternoon. Tomorrow morning anyway we have class from 11 to 1. Tomorrow afternoon also I can take, or I can take on Saturday afternoon. Which one is preferable? Saturday I have another extra class, so I prefer to take tomorrow afternoon. If everybody is free tomorrow afternoon, I guess from the timetable it looks like everyone is free tomorrow afternoon.
No,
Say
sir.
You guys have
Tomorrow,
something?
Sir, we have
we have AHD class, sir.
When is it? Is it not there in the timetable? Extra classes?
Extra class, sir. Extra class.
When is
Sir,
it?
in metallurgy also, sir, we have class for a whole day, sir, from 9 to 5.
Oh, metallurgy I have not seen. Correct. Okay, so what about Saturday? Saturday afternoon, it will be too difficult. Saturday, another extra class is there. One class can be in the evening, one can be in the afternoon. So what about Saturday from 2:30? 2:30 to 4:30.
Yes, sir.
So we will have a class on Saturday 2:30 to 4:30. Actually, we have missed two classes. Both the classes may be required, but let me see with one extra class whether we can manage the material or not. So from Saturday 2:30 to 4:30, then okay, extra class will be there. I will send a reminder email about the extra class. Saturday 2:30 to 4:30. Everyone is free. Please book this time because somebody else may take extra class. So book this slot Saturday 2:30 to 4:30. What do you guys? So if somebody else wants to take extra class, you tell that this class will be there. Otherwise, we will not be able to finish our material. Okay. Last week will become too hectic. Because I will have to give another assignment. So Saturday I will give another set of assignment, and then I will give some solved problems for you to practice in the end part. Okay. So we'll stop here, and we'll meet on tomorrow. We'll meet for our normal class 11 to 1, and Saturday 2:30 to 4:30. Okay. Thank you. So material I will upload in YouTube. I will send you the link, and the